Today we're going to be taking a look at 75393 TIE Fighter and X-Wing Mashup. This set just released on August 1st with 1,063 pieces and a retail price of $110. Now this set is from the upcoming LEGO Original Content show called Rebuild the Galaxy, and it has a cool feature where you can actually switch out the wings on both the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter. And speaking of the sets from this show, so far I haven't really been the biggest fan of the box arts. I just think that colorful brick stripe that goes down the middle is kind of tacky looking, but maybe that's just me. Anyways though, on the back of the box you're going to see a render of what the set looks like with the wings switched around, and then actually opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find 8 separately numbered bags, as well as 1 instruction manual for your TIE Fighter, 1 instruction manual for your X-Wing, and a sticker sheet with 11 separate stickers. The first figure we have up here is the one that everyone is talking about with this set, being L3GO, and if you couldn't put it together, that spells out LEGO, and this droid is basically the LEGO colors, being red, white, and yellow, but everyone is talking about this droid and making fun of it because it looks like it's from McDonald's. I think LEGO's intentions were pretty cool to name it L3GO and have it be the LEGO colors, but myself and many other people really can't unsee that this droid looks like it came from a Happy Meal. Here we have the X-Wing pilot, or Rebel pilot, whatever you want to call him, and he's just your standard pilot. There's not a whole lot to see here, but he does look good, and he does have a pretty cool helmet print that does kind of have the same colors as L3GO, and as you can see here, he does include a double-sided face. Next up here we have Yessie Scala, I don't know how to say her name, but she's just a new character from the show, and I mean, she looks decent, nothing to go crazy over. She's got a pretty cool looking hairpiece, as well as this pretty unique looking brick built staff and a double-sided face. Here we have Sig Greebling. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the main character of the upcoming show. Again, like the other one, there's not a whole lot to see here, nothing to go crazy over. He's just a pretty normal looking minifigure, although he does have a double-sided face and a pretty cool looking staff, as well as what I think is supposed to be a holocron. Then lastly, we have the TIE Pilot. This is the same pilot that came in the Mandalorian Fang Fighter and TIE Interceptor set from last year, and it's just your standard up-to-date modern TIE Pilot. There's nothing crazy to see, but it does look really good. And honestly, that's kind of the theme with this whole minifigure lineup. There's nothing really outstanding, but none of the figures are bad. I think the best minifigure is probably the X-Wing pilot, but other than that, the other ones are kind of just take it or leave it. They're not awful figures, but they're just, again, nothing to go crazy over. And now taking a look at the actual builds themselves, starting with the TIE Fighter, I have to say it's not my favorite. My main issue is with the cockpit windshield. I just think it's kind of weird how the actual windshield itself is so small. I have not seen anyone else mention this, but I just think it's so awkward how the actual windshield piece is so small compared to the rest of the size of the cockpit. It really throws off the look for me quite a bit. And then it gets even worse up top. Obviously, since this TIE Fighter is downsized, there's not room for an actual folding hatch, so they use stickers, and as you can see, there's just a massive gap right through the stickers that are supposed to represent the hatch, and it looks terrible. And then also, not to mention, on the sides or the top here, you can see 2 massive green spring-loaded shooters just sticking right out the back. And there is a very specific reason that they put them on the sides like this that I'll show later. However, still to me, I think it looks pretty bad and throws off the look of the TIE Fighter. And what's even weirder is that you have these red transparent pieces right down here on the front that are supposed to represent the actual lasers on the TIE Fighter, but then on the sides you have giant green spring-loaded shooters, and it just, the green and the red don't mix well, and it doesn't look good, to me at least. The very back isn't bad though. There's just some stickers that represent the engines, as well as a little black tile piece in the middle. Now to access the interior, you just lift the front piece up right here, and I said interior, but there's actually nothing on the inside. There's not any control panels, not even stickered control panels. I feel like the least they could have done was throw in some stickers in here, but there's nothing. Although as you'd expect, you can easily grab your TIE Pilot and sit him in here and then fold the hatch back down. The wings are probably the only redeeming quality about this TIE Fighter, to me at least, because TIE Fighter wings are kind of just hard to mess up. Regardless though, you're going to see some pretty decent detailing with a sticker in the middle and some grill pieces and detailing around the center. I've seen a lot of people complaining online about these dark gray pieces on the front here that are obviously not matching the rest of the color palette of the wings, and yes, that is annoying, but to me at least, that's honestly the least of my concerns with this build. The real bad stuff is around the cockpit with the windshield piece and the sticker on top and the spring-loaded shooters. It just does not look good to me. And you know, if you're new to collecting LEGO Star Wars, you might not think this TIE Fighter is that bad, but if you've been collecting for at least 7 or 8 years, you'll know that these are the type of TIE Fighters that we used to have, and now we have this, and I mean, the difference is just night and day. The TIE Fighter style that LEGO used to use was just leagues and leagues better in my opinion, and obviously a TIE Fighter like this is way too big to fit in a 2-in-1 set. The set would be like at least $150, but if they're gonna downsize them like this, they at least need to put in more effort, because this is just ugly compared to what we used to have, because again, the difference is just night and day in how good the old ones look and how bad this one looks compared to the old ones. So again, I know they have to downsize size, but man, they can do better than this. On a lighter note though, the X-Wing is actually pretty good. My favorite thing about it is that they actually got the shape of the nose down right. Usually with most LEGO X-Wings, the sides of the nose are flat, when if you look at an actual X-Wing, they're not supposed to be flat, they do come down to a bit of a point, and on this one, they actually got the shape right. The sides of the nose aren't flat and they come down to a point, and it looks really good. And also when you're looking at it from top down, the nose does slightly slope inwards to the very tip. You also might have noticed there is a sticker right here on the front, and then right behind that is going to be a printed windshield piece, and as you'd expect, you can open it up to find a little printed control panel, and then you can very easily sit your pilot in there and close the windshield piece back down, and then take the McDonald's droid and sit it in the spot right behind the cockpit. Now my only gripe with this X-Wing is towards the back. There's actually some pretty big gaps between the body and the wings. It just looks a bit off, and the reason there are gaps right here is because the wings are actually connected with just hinges. It doesn't use the rubber band method that's found on most other LEGO X-Wings, so to open the wings, you just manually grab each individual wing and fold it open. And also there is landing gear on the bottom that can fold up as well. And I have to say, it does look pretty dang good when the S-foils are opened like this. I'm actually going to go so far to say that this is one of the best looking X-Wings that LEGO has ever made. They got the shaping of the nose down perfectly, the wings look really good, and it's very sleek. Although again, like I said, my only gripe is with the gaps on the back. Now if you're wondering what the wings themselves look like, there's just some minor detailing with some stickers. They look about as good as they need to, and the actual laser cannons themselves look really good. I've seen a lot of people online complaining about how they don't like these circular pieces on the end because they're not necessarily accurate, and yes, they're not technically accurate. However, I actually like them quite a bit because it gives off this pretty interesting retro look that I think's pretty fun. Here's what the back looks like. The thrusters look pretty good, and then there's some minor detailing with a sticker there in the middle, and also there's this little piece that can fold open right here that's kind of like a hood to access the engine, which I think is pretty cool. Here's what the bottom looks like. There's not a whole lot. You can just get a better look at the landing gear, as well as some spring-loaded shooters that are on the bottom wings that you can, fire as you want to. Although speaking of the landing gear, one thing I didn't mention earlier is that for some reason it's like super tall. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does kind of look a bit awkward because it's just so tall and for no reason really, especially when you compare it to some of the older X-Wings. As you can see, the landing gear is just a lot taller. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I thought I might as well point it out because it does look a bit strange. Now, as I showed earlier, the main play feature with this set is how you can switch the wings around, and to do this, on the bottom of both the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter, there are these little pins that sort of hold the wings in place that you just very easily have to pull out, and then from there, the wings on both models just very easily pop off. They're just held in by one Technic pin, and all you do is just pull it straight out. And then from here, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just switch the wings around on both builds, and then you put the pins back in to hold the wings in place. And a lot of you guys might think this looks weird or think it's some type of gimmick, but I'm gonna be honest, I really like this. And the main reason is that this is very clearly a nod to Star Wars Uglies. If you don't know what the Star Wars Uglies are, you have to be very tapped into Star Wars lore and Star Wars legends, but basically they're just bootleg starfighters that pirates or scavengers would build, and they would switch the wings around basically exactly like in this set. And ever since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated by these starfighters because I think they're really unique and really strange and wonky looking, and I like that. And then much to my surprise, we kind of have them in a LEGO set now. It came out of nowhere, and I really appreciate this because I think the producers of the show are clearly making a nod to OG Star Wars Uglies. And also, like I mentioned earlier, the reason the TIE Fighter has these spring-loaded shooters on the outside of the cockpit is because of this play feature, because obviously the X-Wing spring-loaded shooters are on the actual X-Wing itself, so I guess when it gets put on the TIE Fighter, it technically wouldn't have any spring-loaded shooters, and LEGO thinks that's a necessity. So since they wanted this ship to have spring-loaded shooters so bad, I think they could have put them on like the bottom of the X-Wing or something, because again, they just make that TIE Fighter look super ugly. Anyways though, I think the TIE Fighter cockpit with the X-Wing wings looks the best, especially if you have like a display stand like this. It looks pretty cool. The X-Wing with the TIE Fighter wings is cool too, although I think the other one is a lot better. Now, giving this set a rating, and especially if I should recommend it to you guys or not, is not a very easy task. Like I mentioned earlier, I really do not like this TIE Fighter, although on the other hand, I really like the X-Wing, and if this X-Wing was its own set, I would without a doubt recommend it to you guys because I think it looks really good. However, the inclusion of this TIE Fighter is obviously driving the price up like an extra $50 or so it's really kind of hard to say if I'd recommend it, although what I think is best to say is that if you already have a TIE Fighter and an X-Wing, I would honestly just pass on this set unless you really want this X-Wing, which I wouldn't blame you because it is pretty good. And if you somehow do not have a TIE Fighter or an X-Wing, I would wait until this set goes on sale because I think $110 is a little bit overpriced. $100 would be more ideal. So again, if you don't have either a TIE Fighter or an X-Wing, I would wait until this goes on sale, maybe $100 or $90. I'm feeling a pretty decent 7.5 out of 10 for this set. Again, the TIE Fighter is just holding the X-Wing back quite a bit. I would give the X-Wing a solid 9 or 9.5 out of 10, but for this set as a whole, I'm feeling a 7.5. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on screen right now.